Good evening, everybody. I hope you're all well. I hope you're having a good day. Charlie back again for another live stream. It went really, really well last time. I think a lot of people enjoyed it, so I thought we've got a bit of news today. So I thought I'd bring a bit of news to everybody. Obviously, Richard Arnold has spoken out, spoken to some fans, met some fans earlier today. Apparently, these fans were going to protest at his house. And then this pub that they were supposed to be meeting up at before they were going to protest at his house. Apparently, Richard Arnold found out about it and he came along to the pub. And at this pub, there's obviously been some comments that have been made. So I think it's important just to go through these comments. So please, as always, everybody, please like the video. Please subscribe. Please get involved in the comments. As always, I want this to be, a really, really interactive show. So please do get involved. Hi, Jose. I hope you're doing well, or Jose, whichever pronunciation is right. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a good day. Thanks for coming along. So yeah, I think we should just get into the quotes. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to have a look through everything. So let me just get that up, and we will have a look through some of the quotes from today. If you're late, if you're a couple of minutes late coming in, just remember, please do subscribe if you are new. So we're going to be covering the comments from Richard Arnold today. So let's have a look at this. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to have a look at some of the quotes. So let's get this up. So you should be able to see that now. So this is apparently one of the people that were there at the pub at the time when Richard Arnold delivered these comments. So I think it's just important just to have a look at a few of the quotes that were given. Okay, so if we've obviously got a few videos which I'm not going to bother playing. So let's just have a look at a few. So Richard Arnold said Ten Hag has given his list to Man United for the players he wants, and he said the club are doing everything to get who he wants. He believes everything at the club is changing and heading in the right direction. Now, obviously, this is interesting in terms of Ten Hag has given his list to the club, and the club are doing everything to get who he wants. We've heard this sort of rhetoric before, haven't we? So we've heard this sort of rhetoric before. To be honest with you, I think actions speak louder than words, personally. So we've heard this sort of stuff before. Let's actually see whether this is true come the end of the window. Let's see whether Ten Hag actually gets who he wants. So another quote here, as a club, we're doing everything possible to get the deal done in terms of the De Jong deal. I've been up for days trying to get it done. The money is there, but there's things standing in our way which I can't say. And fans then went to say, just tell us and be honest, we've come out of our way just to see you. In other words, to be honest, he's also put another quote out, one of the people that were there. So stop blagging us and be honest. Look, we're doing everything we can to get it done. I'm telling you, the money is there for him. So for me, obviously we can't speculate too much, but looking at this sort of couple of quotes from Richard Arnold, to me, what this looks like is the Glazers are standing in the way. That's what it looks like for me. There's a few things standing in our way, which I can't say. In other words, for me, it's probably the Glazers that are standing in the way there. So that's another quite comical one. All credit to the 1958, etc. I'm not going to comment too much because I don't know all the details of what happened, but I'm just going to go through the quotes. You need to sort out the joke of an admin embarrassing us on Twitter. They're going and a new team are taking over. Change is coming. Very, very interesting. Obviously, more of a minor thing, really. The social media manager. I think a lot of people do get a bit fed up. I particularly get fed up with the history. There's a lot of quotes, a lot of tweets from Man United about history. Oh, on this day we scored this goal. I'm not bothered about that. We need to focus on now. What are Man United going to do to make us more successful now? That's what I'm bothered about. I think that's what most people are bothered about. So let's try and see let's see if we see any change on that front. But that's another comical one above. Who the F gives the likes of Phil Jones a new 4-year deal? That person isn't at the club anymore. Interesting. I can't change the past and what's been done, but only tell you things will change. Let's see it then. it's all good and well, talking the talk. Ed Woodward would never have done this. So fair play for Richard Arnold. Fair play to him for actually coming and speaking. But let's be honest with ourselves. At the end of the day, actions speak louder than words. It's all good saying this and that, but what action are we actually going to see? What changes are we going to see? So let's actually see it. We are. I think a lot of people are being a little bit desperate, hoping for one or two things. We are used to literally scum of the earth people, not even interested in the fans. You talk about Ed Woodward; he wouldn't even stop for a minute to talk. So just because somebody sat down at a pub and spoken for a few minutes, for I don't know how many minutes it was, I don't know whether it was a long talk. I know it's a little bit desperate. It is a slight improvement, but let's actually see whether things change on this. Let's go for another video there. So apparently the motive of the sort of going to Richard Arnold was not just because of the transfers, it's because of the owners, generally because of the poor running of the club. So that's it in terms of a few quotes. Just put those up. I'm just going to go through a few of the comments. Big up, Oris Talks Football. Thanks a lot for coming along. £200 million budget looks BS. Yeah, I'm not sure how credible that really is. I'm not sure he actually said at any point the exact £200 million. I think he just said the money is there. I wouldn't believe too much into numbers at this stage. Let's actually just wait and see. And yeah, they were. Yeah, that you are right there. That was something that was talked about. So yeah, I think we should just personally wait and see. Look, as I said before, it cannot be any worse than it has been in terms of the CEO. We've had Ed Woodward. It's been an absolute disgrace with Ed Woodward. Not a football man, no clue what he's doing, never communicated with fans, never was bothered about spending any time with fans. Richard Arnold's come in. I've always said I reserve my judgment in terms of the possible sort of changes in inverted commas that might be made. I'll reserve my judgment. Richard Arnold's come in. Let's actually see the changes. Let's actually see some changes. What is quite interesting is that we can't distinguish whether he's any good at this moment in time, whether he actually means any business, because the people above him, they're the people who are ultimately going to give the say on decisions. We know that Joel Glazer still is going to make decisions on transfers. He's going to give the ultimate yes or no. We don't know. Even if this bloke tries and does good things, it'll be ultimately decided by the Glazers, won't it? So I think, in my opinion, let's actually wait and see. Actions speak louder than words. I'm not going to get too carried away. Fair play to the bloke going to a pub and speaking to these fans, but let's actually see some change. Mo, thanks for coming along, Mo. Sounds like pure political type chatter to me from Arnold. He's trying to protect his face and the owners too, obviously. I see where you're coming from. Obviously, he's saying he is doing all he can on the De Jong deal. He's going to do all he can to sort of improve things. But let's actually see. I don't get this thing you always get from Man United employees. We're working as hard as we can. Well, any fan would work as hard as they can. I don't want people who just work hard at the football club. I want the best in class at the football club. And I think that's what it's about. He says, I think he said Murto's up from 6 a.m. to 10 at night, working on the De Jong deal. Well, so would all of us fans if we were in that position. If we were fans, if we were in the director of football position, we'd be working our butts off to try and do everything we could because we love Manchester United. So for me, hard work, that's what you should be expected to do at this sort of position. It's not just about hard work. You've got to have the guile and the ability to do your job in the first place. Too many people in the past, whether it be managers, players, staff in the boardroom, just haven't been the right fit for Manchester United. Forget about, we've had players that people question their mentality, their work rate, their consistency, but ultimately we need the best in class. And the best in class, we haven't had that in recent years. We really, really haven't. We've got owners that I don't really understand. I think if they ran the football club in a better way, I think they'd make a lot more money. So I think it's just, also they've got a dividend coming out to you in the Glazers. Is this sort of, have they said to Arnold, go and speak to the fans, go and give them a few good words. Bit of a distraction, possibly. Aditya, do you trust this, bro? I'm not trusting anything that these people say at this moment in time, to be honest with you. Um, I am not trusting anything these people say until I see change, until I see actual things being done, if that makes sense. It's all good, saying these things. It's a bit like Ralph Rangnick. I didn't think I ultimately didn't give Ralph Rangnick much blame because I thought he was made to fail in the first place. But Ralph Rangnick talked about control in games. He talked about uh, trying to control games, and he picked the teams that didn't show control in terms of the players he picked. So there are people, and I'm not blaming Ralph Rangnick in terms of what happened. He isn't their manager in my eyes anyway. He should have been kept on. I thought he would have done a good job. I think the Glazers sacked him because he was too honest. But there are people in football who sort of talk the talk but don't walk the walk, if that makes sense. They talk all these good words, these buzzwords. But actually, what do they do? So I think let's actually see. I don't trust any of these people involved at the club until I see change. No, again, so I'm ultimately more worried about the DOF role because we don't have any football brains in the hierarchy, and that's what we need for any level of restructuring. Yeah, I think John Murtough has earned some respect from people with what he's done at the women's team and the youth level, but I think it's a whole different ball game. I know the women's game has developed. The women's game, I think women have got much more of a chance nowadays in terms of football. The women's game has really developed, but I think the men's game is slightly different. I think it's a bigger ballpark. I think it's more complex. There's more factors involved, I think. So it's a bigger field. So let's actually see whether John Murtough could do anything. As I've said, and I'll say this again and again and again, I will not say anything positive until I actually see change. I don't think we should be giving any praise to these people until we actually see any change. And will these people, Arnold and Murtough, will they even be allowed to do what they want because of the Glazers? So let's see. So Joe says, so Richard Arnold said that John Murtough is working from 6 till 10. Yeah, that's the quote I pulled out. Trying to get the Frenkie de Jong deal done. There's 200 million for transfers, and he wouldn't let any other target slip. You see, I don't think. I'm not too sure about that budget thing. I don't think he would have. I don't think that. I'm not fully trusted in sort of that figure. I'm not fully sure on that figure at all. I don't think, and again, even we've been quoted 120 million pound budget as well by journalists. We just don't know what to believe at the end of the day. There's lots of journalists that reported it. Let's actually see. I'm not going to believe, as I said, anything positive that comes out of these people's mouth until I see proper change, until I see action. I understand that Manchester United have spent a lot of money. I think he said £1 billion, didn't he, in the last few years? But it's not just about the money we've spent. That's been the bad sort of side of things, and it's gone to waste. I would also say it's the lack of plan, the lack of direction we've had. It's not just the money we've wasted. What was the project? So I think that's the big issue. I think we need to get a project in place. Eric Ten Hag, I'm hoping, in terms of what the Glazers have, what Arnold's come out and said, the money's there for the new manager, the money he needs. What does Ten Hag thinks he needs? That I think that's another interesting point to bring in. What does Ten Hag think he needs to rejuvenate this squad? I think he needs at least £200 million to do it. I really, really do. I think I've always said I think we need 6 signings, and one of them can be Eriksen on a free, but I think we need 5 big signings. And I'm not on about big signings, 100 million, 80 million pound players. I just want the players that Ten Hag wants that he thinks, and I think he will need around 200 million pound. But I'm not sure whether that figure is correct. Can we trust these people? Let's wait and see. I hope it is correct. But let's wait and see. Because if you're spending 70 million on the De Jong deal, and you've only got just over 100 million to spend, you ain't going to do anything for Ten Hag. That's not going to help him that much. Adita, so doesn't this Richard Arnold meeting the fans thing staged? I'm not so sure. As I said before, I'm not going to comment on the actual. We don't know the truth behind the actual meeting. I'm just pulling out quotes, the football side of things. I will always try and focus on the football side of things. I'm not sure about whether it was staged or not. And that's why I'm thinking I'm taking this with a pinch of salt. What the quotes that are coming out, let's actually see the action changing. Let's see some actions, because as you say, we just don't know at this stage what was going on with this meeting. Apparently, I've heard that from some people that these people were going to protest at his house, and Richard Arnold found out about it, so he met them in the pub. So let's see. Let's see. Richard Arnold. Yeah, that I think you've got to be careful with that quote. He didn't pull out Pogba and Lingard specifically. He said those people have now left the club. I don't think he pulled out Pogba and Lingard specifically. So you've just got to be careful of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that quote's accurate. I think he said, as you know, those two players have left the club. So it could be Pogba and Lingard. It could be Grant. It could be Mata. I don't think it would have been, but it could well be. I don't think he would have done. Oh, he's put it out now, has he? Okay. That is very, very interesting. That is interesting that he's pulled those two players out. Thank you for that. As I said at the time of the recording of the video, when I sort of got the quotes together, it wasn't true. But that's interesting that he's put that out now. Good vibes. Yep. No, it's not about 5 players. You're not going to get 5 players maybe all into the starting 11, but I think we do need 5 or 6 signings. If you think about, for example, the midfield area. If we sign Eriksen isn't going to play every game for Manchester United. Probably not. He's not going to probably play every game. You know, we've got a lot of players in that attacking midfield position. If you think about a striker signing, they're probably not going to play every game ahead of Ronaldo. It's probably going to have to be somebody that's maybe happy to play second fiddle to Ronaldo. So it's not about 5 players shoving them in a starting 11. I think if we do sign 6 players, I think you'll probably see 3 or 4 maybe go straight into the team. And then you have 2 or 3 that will probably be maybe squad players. Because you've got to remember, you know, as you rightly said, we won't, you know, we're not going to have a revolution in terms of the starting 11, I don't think. I think we'll have a few go straight into the starting 11 and a few squad players. I think you are right in terms of, you know, you can't just shove a whole new load of players together and hope that they stick. And that's why that I don't think all of them will go straight into the first team. I don't blame you there, Pavel Stores. I don't believe a thing he says is all BS. I don't blame you for saying that. My opinion, and if you're joining late, by the way, I'm just saying my opinion is I'm not believing too much until I actually see some changes. I think that's the right sort of stand to have. Do you think Ten Hag will push Donny to the double pivot if we sign Eriksen? I think Eriksen can play in a wider area in the 4-2-3-1. He won't obviously play. He will roam slightly more central, I think. But I don't think Donny is in the pivot for me. I don't think that's where he excels. He can play there, but I don't think that's where he's best. And if we sign De Jong and Donny is not going to work in a pivot. De Jong will need somebody. It will have to be Fred or McTominay if we don't sign another midfielder, unfortunately. And I know everyone's going to be going, listening to this, but I'm hoping we're going to obviously sign another midfielder on top of De Jong and Eriksen. So for me, Eriksen will be Eriksen will be on the left, in the centre, or on the right of the 4-2-3-1 in the 3 attacking midfield positions, or he will probably be on the bench. Donny or Bruno will probably be in the number 10. I think Bruno could also maybe play a slightly wider role, but he won't play. He will play more of a narrow role, so it'd be sort of in the half space sort of thing. So in between the attacking midfield player and the left and right, somewhere in there, I think Bruno could also play. But I'm just speculating. You know, I'm not the manager. Ten Hag will decide. I think Donny van der Beek for me is a number 10, and people will disagree, but Ten Hag's actually said in the past that's his best position. And yet Daniel agreed. As I said, Daniel, it's all about opinions, by the way. Everyone can have a different opinion, and that's the beauty of it. As I said, there might be people who really, really back Richard Arnold and say, well, fantastic, I believe all this. And you can go and believe it if you want. If you don't believe a word he said, don't believe a word he said. It's all about different opinions. That's what football is all about. As long as you're respectful, Daniel, as I said, that's always on my platform. Anyone can come along with their opinions. As long as you're respectful, I'm happy to have an opinion, sort of debate opinions with everybody. So big up to you. Enzo Fernandez would be great. I haven't watched too much of Enzo Fernandez, unfortunately, so I cannot comment. I will always be truthful on players. I won't make up that I've watched players. I haven't seen anything of Enzo Fernandez, so I cannot comment. If anyone else has, please get in the comments and let me know. If that was serious about the club getting back to its glory days, we would have got business done early doors. I do agree with you, Papa Stores, there. I do think you are certainly correct. No doubt transfers are complex, but look at the way that Conte has done business, Liverpool have done business, Manchester City have done early business. One thing that could be a reason why we're going a bit slower is because obviously the Barcelona situation economically. Also, we've got a new manager, so that might slow down the process. But I do agree. I do think that the board have known who the manager was going to be for a few months, and we should have had a bit more action than we've got. I do agree with that, but I do think this is no way me backing the board or the Glazers at all. But I do think once the De Jong deal, if it gets sorted, I do think there will be a few players that follow. So I think you'll see a bit of a domino effect. The most complex deal is getting sorted first, and then I think we'll get a few deals done after. Bruno as a false nine, not for me. Look, if he could develop into one and Ten Hag can work with him, that would be brilliant. But for me, Bruno is not a false nine. From what I've seen so far from Bruno, that is not for me. But as I said, I'm happy to be proven wrong. Ten Hag, let's see what he can do. I want these players to play well. Even if I don't think something can happen, let's see it. If Ten Hag thinks it can work, let's have a go. But I don't think he's best as a false nine, Bruno. And I think if Bruno is going to play under Ten Hag, he's going to have to be surrounded by players that take a bit more care of the ball, because we can't have too many players that want to do things at 100 mile an hour, making more risky decisions. So I think if Bruno does play, I think you'll see Sancho and Eriksen, or Sancho and Donny probably in the same team, just to keep possession, retain the ball a bit more, so we've got that balance. Bruno, do you rate Bruno after seeing him in the Nations League with Portugal? For me, Bruno, I think Bruno's got some good attributes, but I do think when he was scoring all these goals and assists, people did get a bit carried away, and we've seen it with Man United fans. And I always said, I don't think Bruno's this world-class player. I don't think he's terrible. I think he's a decent player, but I think he does need to improve under Ten Hag. I think he needs to improve also his mentality. I think when things go wrong for Bruno, he's quite frustrating. And I do think he does need that manager to come along and say, well, what are you going to show me? Can you change for me? We've had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We've had Ralph Rangnick. We've had Michael Carrick, who obviously did very, very well. You wouldn't consider any three of those managers to be sort of well-renowned tactical managers, in my opinion. Again, you might disagree. I never really rated Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Ralph Rangnick as a manager. Michael Carrick obviously did very well, but it was in a short stint. And Michael Carrick was one of the managers who actually dropped Bruno to keep the team balanced better. So we'll see. I think Ten Hag is the first manager we've had in a few years that's sort of that upcoming manager that we've got maybe at the right time in his development. So let's see. I think Bruno can be involved, but he does need to improve. He needs to be more disciplined, and he will need to change slightly. I do agree. Joseph said, I believe in Murta because he's a footballing man. Not sure about Arnold, might just be your PR. Yeah, Murta obviously done good things with the youth and the women's team, but as I said, I think this is a whole different ball game. I think this is a whole different ball game with the men's team at Manchester United. I think it's a different ball game. So let's see. I'm not sure about Arnold, might just be all PR. As I said, we don't know. It's interesting that the Glazer dividends are being given out soon. This video has emerged. It is quite interesting. Let's see. What about Henderson? He's also linked with a move away from the club. Then he laughs regarding the leaks. That's interesting, Brandon. Thanks for that. Thanks for coming along, Brandon, as well. Thanks for everybody, by the way, on the show right now. We've got 15 people, I think, watching now. So please smash a like on the video if you haven't already. I really appreciate all the support that everyone's come along. This is my second live stream. I did one yesterday, one today. I think it's going quite well. I think people are quite engaged. I'm really, really enjoying it. So thanks a lot. Really appreciate everybody coming along. If you don't follow me on Twitter already, please go and follow me at ThreadmanChazza. So the same username, just there, same as my YouTube. Thank you very much. Still getting used to the put in the right place to give you the username there. Yeah, big up Daniel. So do you find it a bit concerning Frenkie de Jong doesn't seem to want to come? I think he does. I think he will come. I think it's only a matter of time. If Manchester United increase their bid a little bit more, I think he will come, to be honest with you. I just think that regarding Frenkie de Jong, I think Barcelona are obviously trying to do what they can, playing a bit of poker with him. I understand about convincing part, But you've got to realise the state that Manchester United are in. Manchester United are in the Europa League. Manchester United have just had their worst ever season, conceded however many goals we conceded. I can't remember. We're going to need to persuade some of these players. We are in a bit of a dire state. So I think if Ten Hag wasn't the manager, I don't think Frenkie de Jong would even consider. I think Ten Hag's the manager. De Jong knows him. I think Ten Hag's been quoted saying it will only be 1 year in the Europa League because De Jong really, really wants Champions League football. But Ten Hag said, well, it's only going to be 1 year. I saw a quote come out. It's only going to be 1 year, apparently, when they had a conversation. So Ten Hag's obviously confident we can get back into the Champions League. And let's see if De Jong, I think De Jong will come. I really do. But let's see. Let's see. I do think players will need some persuading with the state that we're in at this moment in time. Grosser, which of the academy players do you rate the highest? I think James Garner is a decent player. I like Alvaro Fernandez. I think Garnacho's look very, very promising. I think there's Kobe Mino as well, if I pronounced his name right, who played in the Youth Cup final, and Hansen as well, who played in the Youth Cup final at number 10. Very, very impressed by them. But I've always said this before, Grow. I've always said this. Academy players need to be introduced at the right time. I'm not going to get carried away with academy lads. I don't think it's right to put them under that real immense pressure. So I'm going to say to the academy lads, everyone coming through, keep working hard, keep at it, and don't feel like you've made it before you have. I think that's an important thing to mention with these youth lads. Keep working hard. We will support you, but let's actually, I think it's important to only integrate them at the right time and if they've got the required quality. Because I think players like, McTominay, I think Rashford, obviously the Greenwood situation is different, but I think Rashford suffered a little bit, whether it's because of the stuff he's done off the scene, injuries. Has he been made to be a player that he maybe wasn't? Everyone's saying, oh, he's world class and all this, and he was made up to be like a king of Manchester. Well, actually, let's actually reserve our judgment a bit and let these young players develop without so much pressure on them. I think that would be a good idea. Aditya, thanks very much, mate. Thanks a lot for the support from India. I hope everything's well in India. I hope everything's going well for you, mate, there. Thanks a lot, Brandon, for subscribing. I really appreciate the support. RS Talks Football, so Sky Sports Chef on Anthony, keep an eye on that one. That's an interesting one. Obviously, Timber looking less likely. So I wouldn't be surprised if Man United were to sign one player from Ajax this summer. I'd be surprised if we were to sign two. I think it would probably be one. And because Timber's less likely, Lisandro Martinez, the Ajax centre-back, and possibly going to Arsenal. Very, very interesting news about Anthony there. So thanks a lot for that. I will check that out. We cannot afford going to pre-season without 2 or 3 players. It's scary if Eric Ten Hag thinks McTominay can do a job and decides not to sign a DM. Yeah. And I'm just going to bring up this one. Smash the likes. Yes, please do. Please smash the likes. Thanks a lot. Oris Talks Football, thanks a lot for the support. So yeah, just going back to this quote about pre-season. It's very, very important pre-season. I got a little bit of stick last season because I got really, really serious when we were losing in pre-season. And I was telling people pre-season is really important. Not necessarily the results of the games, but especially because the new manager's coming in, laying the foundations. If you're in pre-season and you've got 0, 1, even 2 of your players in out of 5 or 6 that you want, that's not really that helpful. I think the 12th of July is the first game. I think we're the group, Man United group, are sort of reconvening in a couple of weeks' time. So what I would say is Eric Ten Hag could do with definitely De Jong over the line and in the squad for pre-season, and 2 or 3 others really, if he can. Obviously, if we can't get them in for the start, can we get them in before that first pre-season game? And I think you are right in terms of getting to pre-season with players. We do need to get to pre-season with the new players. Let them integrate. I do think pre-season is very important. I'll say that again. Last season, we had a really, really poor pre-season. We started the season pretty well. I think obviously we beat Leeds, Newcastle, drew to Southampton and beat Wolves. I think we got 10 out of the first 12 points. But if you'll rightly remember, everybody watching, we didn't play particularly well in our first few games. And that might sound silly. You might be thinking, Charlie, what are you going on about? We beat Leeds. We smashed Leeds. Yeah, we played pretty well there. Newcastle, we were okay, but we were in a bit of trouble for some period of the game. We drew to Southampton. And if you remember the Wolves game, We won 1-0, but De Gea made 5 or 6 saves. Varane was exceptional. We were so poor on that day, and we probably should have lost the game. So pre-season is vital in terms of getting up to speed. Ten Hag, getting to know his coaching staff, in terms of obviously McLaren, getting a good relationship. I know he knows him already, but sort of developing the relationship there and getting to know the players, getting the new players integrated. It's really, really key pre-season. And in terms of the McTominay thing, look, if he thinks McTominay can do a job, he thinks that. I personally, and I think a lot of people in the Man United fan base, think that McTominay is a squad player at best. But let's see. As I said, I want every player to do well. I don't hate any Man United players. I don't particularly love any Man United players at the moment as well, with the season we've had. Maybe Ronaldo still, and De Gea in terms of his legend status. But in terms of what they've produced recently, I don't really love any of these Man United players. But I think hate's too much of a strong word. I think I'm so passionate about the club. Players do not come above the club. The club's up here. No player or manager or anybody in the club should ever come first. So let's see. If a player isn't good enough, let's get them out the door. Charlie, how many players do you think we'll sign? I think we will sign. I would like to sign 6 players. You're probably looking at more 4, sort of maybe Ericsson plus the youth lad from Derby and 3 more, but I don't think that's anywhere near enough for us talks football personally. I think this, obviously bringing Garner back as well. I would rather Garner go on loan again personally. I would rather have 2 midfield players, Ericsson, a fullback, a centre back, and then a winger or a striker. They would be my 6 positions. So I'll go for a centre back, a fullback, 2 midfield players in terms of 2 De Jong and another that can start together in a pivot, and then Ericsson and then a winger or a striker. I would send Garner back on loan. I would probably keep Martial and Van der Beek just because of squad numbers. We've got Europa League. I don't think we've obviously lost Mata, Lingard, Pogba, Matic. We've lost quite a few numbers. Cavani as well. Ronaldo's obviously not getting any younger. He's obviously very old. He's not going to be able to play every game. If we bring in obviously a striker, obviously Martial, is he a winger or a striker? He still hasn't really shown us consistently what he is. So I would keep Martial just because I don't think there's anyone that's really going to want him either. So I think we need to sign 5 or 6, but we'll probably end up signing 4. But I really, really hope that the words coming out of Arnold's mouth are truth and the money is there and Ten Hag will be backed. Daniel said Rashford and Sancho need to start the season well. Correct. Yep. Output from wide was so bad. Yes. The coaching to improve. Yes. Really, really good points, Daniel, about the coaching. Look, I got a lot of stick from a lot of fans saying that Ollie and the coaching staff weren't good enough in terms of coaching and developing these players. And I think it was true. And I think most of you in the comments will agree that not one player's game from the start of Ollie's reign to the end of Ollie's reign really developed. If we really look at every player individually, yes, players had good spells, but which player could you say, and even from the Jose Mourinho days, which player from the start of Jose to the end of Jose that's still here, which players really developed in terms of their overall game? Yes, you can say Bruno's got numbers, Rashford's got numbers, Luke Shaw had a good few months, Maguire had a good few months, Greenwood, we know what's happened there, and obviously that's no one else's fault other than his own, of course. But in terms of all our players, who actually developed? You know what I mean? I think this is a really good point from Daniel in terms of coaching. Who's actually developed in the last few years for Manchester United? So certainly, I'm looking forward to the coaching. I think some players are beyond coaching, personally. I think some players, Rashford decision-making, can you really coach that? Bruno Fernandes, can he be coached to be more disciplined? I think a lot of it's got to come from his own side, not just the coaches. So I think let's see. And yeah, output certainly from wide areas needs to improve. You are totally right. And Joseph, so Anthony and Sancho have a similar profile. You're correct. No threat or pacing behind. Low intensity. Wouldn't be happy. I totally get where you're coming from there in terms of the similarity with the players. But we've got to realise that this is obviously Erik Ten Hag. This is his team. Let's see what he can build. Let's also remember that in terms of Ten Hag, we're going to have a lot of the possession, aren't we? We're going to dominate a lot of possession. So I've always been of the opinion, and I'll say this until I die really, I will always prefer those players that have higher ball retention, smarter decision making than those explosive players running in behind. Obviously, if you can do both, fantastic. If you look at the way that Manchester City play, which is slightly similar to Ten Hag's style, obviously Mahrez, Sterling, Foden, they're quite quick players, aren't they? Yeah, but they can also, they're also players that they work with the ball a lot. Sterling's slightly different. I think Sterling's off the ball runs are really, really good. But if you look at Mahrez, if you look at Foden, Bernardo Silva, they're not absolutely rapid, electric players. Like they're not going to beat. They might beat defenders for pace, but they're not absolutely electric. They're not the fastest players in the league. They're the most technical players in the league. And I do think that with Ten Hag's system, yes, pace obviously is an added bonus. But if you look at what Ten Hag's using now, Berghaus, Tadic. So Berghaus, you've got Tadic. You see what he's used in the past in terms of, obviously he's used Tadic as a false nine. He's used Haller now. If you look at Anthony, if you look at even Donny van de Beek, these are not really, really fast, explosive players. The system helps them out. So I think that you are right in terms of Anthony and Sancho, but I think I'd rather have those more technical players that are not so explosive. I think that suits Ten Hag's system better, because I think Ten Hag's system allows these players to make those third man runs, for example, Donny van de Beek, and outnumber the opposition often with a 5 across the front line. The two number 8s, or the number 8 and the number 10, the striker, the two wide players, all forming a sort of a front 5, really outnumbering the opposition. We're going to have a lot of the ball under Ten Hag. He wants to dominate possession. We obviously will counter attack when we can, but I don't think that's as important as some people make out. I do understand where you're coming from, though, in terms of the balance. And that is why Rashford could be useful in terms of the balance he offers. What players would you sign to address the issues we currently have? I would sign, obviously, Frenkie de Jong. In terms of I would sign Eriksen. I would sign Timber, but it's not looking as likely. I would sign Malacia from Feyenoord. I would sign Ruben Neves. And then the 6th signing, I would sign a winger or a striker. I'd look at the Sassuolo striker, Shamaka. I think he's a very good all-round player. I'd like Nkunku. I think Anthony could be a decent signing in terms of work with Ten Hag before. But I do hear what Jose says about the lack of balance. I do hear what he says there, but Ten Hag will ultimately decide. But I would go with Nkunku or Shamaka. They would be my 6 signings. I know that would cost a lot, but I think that's what we need. I think you've got to pay the big bucks nowadays if you want to be a successful football club, yeah? And I think we should. Sancho and a Ten Hag, I agree. Jose, I do think Sancho will be a really, really good asset next season. The latest with Ghana, no new news. Ten Hag's going to have him in pre-season, judge him and make a call. Mo, Fernandez hero ball, Rashi IQ, De Gea's lack of being an overall keeper, all things that can't be coached. Yeah, I think you're right there with those 3 things. Some people with De Gea, some people still back De Gea totally. Some people think De Gea's beyond repair. I'm one of those people that thinks De Gea has been a great servant to this football club. However, in the next year or so, Ten Hag is going to have to, for me, sign a new goalkeeper. And I'm not saying that De Gea is rubbish or anything like that. I just think if you look at De Gea in terms of his shot stopping, still very good. If you look at De Gea claiming crosses, distribution, it's actually one of the worst in the league. It really, really is. And I'm not going to, some people are abusing De Gea and, making compilations on Twitter all the time. I don't think that's right. I think he deserves respect in terms of what he's done in the past, but I think it will be time for him to move on next summer. Anthony. Anthony, again, latest on Anthony. I think there's interest from United, but let's see what happens. Brandon Williams, I think he could be out the door, really, unless Tellez goes and we don't sign a left-back, and he might be a backup to Shaw, but I've never particularly rated Brandon Williams. I don't particularly rate Alex Tellez either, by the way, but I don't particularly rate Brandon Williams. Good choices. Thanks there, mate. Thanks for the support. Frenkie de Jong, Man United are working on the deal. In terms of the deal, I think Manchester United still 17 million pound away from Barca's valuation. So let's see what happens there. Brandon, have you seen what Arnold said about Ranić? I'm going to share my screen again here. in a minute. So just give me a few seconds just to get this up, because I do believe there's a few more sort of tweets that have come out about Arnold. So I'm just going to get this up now. As I said, I would take a lot of this with a pinch of salt until actions really until actions really happen. So I'm going to share my screen now with everybody. And we're going to get a few more comments up. So thanks a lot, Brandon, for bringing that up, by the way. Thanks a lot for that, because I do believe a few more things have come out. So yeah, so firstly, this one that was brought up earlier, thank you to whoever brought this up. So Richard Arnold, the players leaking stuff to the media from the dressing room. As you know, Paul Pogba and Lingard have now left the club. What about Henderson? He is also linked with the move away from the club, then laughs. Interesting. United officials are in Barcelona getting the deal done for De Jong. Everyone is working day and night. I haven't slept in the last few days. I mean, I don't really buy into that too much. You know what I mean? I really don't believe it. I don't buy into that too much. I mean, do you have to work all day and all night to get this done? I'm not so sure you do. I think you just need to make an improved bid to Barcelona until they really budge, and they're going to have to budge at some point because they probably need to sell. I know they don't need to sell maybe as much as they did because of the economic levers have been activated, but I don't buy into not sleeping for nights and nights. I'm not too sure about that. I think you've got to be a bit careful what you believe and what you don't here. I think you've got to take it with a pinch of salt, as I said already. Fans on Ranić, this is what they said to Arnold. Apparently, this is all apparent. Basically, you got rid of Ranić because he called you all out. Arnold, no, that's not true. Fans, BS. He told the world basically the club is a joke. You can believe what you want, but that isn't true. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. So that's a bit more on the Arnold thing. As I said before, this is something generally to say to Manchester United fans. Be very, very careful what you believe. And I've learned from this myself. I will be totally honest with everyone watching. I was against Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as manager. Reports came out that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's coaches, the players felt they were not good enough, etc. And I believed what I wanted to believe as a fan because I didn't think they were good enough. But I've matured, I think, over the last 6 or 12 months. And I've realized, well, you've got to be very careful what you believe. You know, as a young person at university, obviously older people have got more knowledge in terms of the way that Man United are treated in the media and stuff like that. I've learned over the last few months, you've got to be very careful what you believe in terms of which journalists to believe. We saw yesterday, Jonathan Schrager said that Man United were in for Vitinha. Fabrizio Romano said they were never even talked or considered Vitinha, and Vitinha went to PSG, and the Porto midfielder. So I think you've got to be very, very careful what you believe. So if I were you, everybody, just if a report comes out, it's the same about Ralf Rangnick. Why did he leave? My personal opinion was, I don't think there's anything to do with he couldn't work with Ten Hag. I think it was a board decision and a club decision. I think it's a bit of a coincidence that he took the Austria job. If he, surely if he knew he was going to stay on, he wouldn't have taken that job. That's just my thoughts. But everyone's got their own opinion. As I said, you can bring your own opinion here. I'm not going to, call anybody out for their opinion. It's totally up to you what you believe. As long as you're respectful and as long as it makes some sort of sense, you can believe what you want. And Jose, I said in terms of the lack of balance between Anthony and Sancho, I said that especially because of the Prem. I know City prove everyone wrong, but the Prem is known for its intensity. And you're totally right. Another good point in terms of the intensity. I do think Sancho has got more to offer, though. I think Sancho hasn't got doesn't really lack pace. I still think he can be an explosive player. I just think we haven't seen it that much yet. I really, really do. I think you'll see when the team's more cohesive, that more sort of explosive element will come out more. I do believe that. Daniel Martial seems like an Eric Ten Hag player. It sounds crazy after Paul Owen. What do you reckon? 1-2 is better, unselfish and needs to do better. Again, hoping on some proper coaching. I totally agree, Daniel. Look, I'm a huge fan of Martial's attributes. Before anyone comes at me and says, Martial's, he's not produced. In terms of Martial's attributes, I'm really, really keen on Martial. If you actually understand his game, I don't think there's any coincidence that Man United have stopped winning as many penalties as we did. I think Martial was a big reason to why we won so many penalties. I think Martial was a big reason why Rashford and Bruno were playing well, because I think it complemented them. They had somebody that was a bit more unselfish, played 1-2s, as Daniel rightly said, and sort of somebody to play off. I think Martial was that player. So before everyone comes at me and says, Martial, I totally get it. I wouldn't be against it if we sold him, if a buyer came in. But I do think his attributes could be useful for Ten Hag, particularly in the number 9 position. Sort of a false 9. I think Martial could work as he did in the 1920 season when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was manager. No, don't see us buying a right back, but we'll probably let Aaron Wan-Bissaka go. Think it would be safe to trust Ethan Laird. There's definitely a quality player. Yeah, there is a decent player in there. Certainly there is, with Ethan Laird. But as I said, and I've said this before, Mo, and I'll say it again, in terms of youth players, I only want youth players coming in when the environment's right, when they're ready, when the team's ready. At this stage, I still think I think we might see a fullback leave Manchester United this summer, whether it be Telles, Williams, sort of Telles or Wan-Bissaka. I think either of those. Probably Wan-Bissaka is more likely to go to Palace, maybe. I'd prefer a new right back to come in rather than Laird at this stage. I think Dalot needs to probably be the number 2 right back, sort of the backup right back at this stage. But it's a good point, Mo, in terms of Laird. But I just think with these youth players, we've just got to integrate them at the right time. And the first year of Ten Hag's reign, I don't think that will be the right time. I think we need to lay the foundations first. And Brannon, yep, totally right. Sancho and Rashford, let's hope they improve next season. Of course, for a joke, Arnold's in denial. There's a reason other fans laugh at us. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're totally right there. Look, there's Manchester City winning 4 titles in 5 years, and Man United fans are getting a bit excited that a bloke sat down with some fans at a pub with a beer and said a few words. That's not going to move me much, really. And as I said, I've come on and done this show because I just wanted to bring the truth to everybody. But that's not going to do much for me. I want to actually see change. Let's actually see change. But we are certainly a joke. And I think what we need to realise, and I think this goes against the old school sort of being a fan, you are allowed to criticise your football club. I think we need to realise that as a fan base. I think some fans think that you can't criticise anything about Manchester United. We've got to do that if we want to be successful. We've got to have standards. We've got to realise that players aren't good enough. We've got to realise managers aren't good enough. As I said, the club comes before any employee. Employees are employees. They come and go. Players and managers come and go. The club will hopefully always be there in the future. So we've always got to look at what's best for the club, in my opinion. What reporters do you trust and believe more than others? I think Fabrizio Romano's sort of trust has gone. I think people have lost a bit of trust in him recently because he seems to just be sort of a tapping merchant. People call him. Sort of other reporters are saying things, and he sort of confirms things. I think Howard Nurse is obviously very, very reliable. I think Jonathan Schrager is reliable. Who else would I say is reliable? I think you've also got. I think it's Mullock. I think his surname is. I think he's quite reliable as well. But to be honest with you, Brandon, I just tend to look around. Obviously, the Sun. Always try and avoid the Sun. Really, I think the Sun is very, very unreliable. I'm not a great expert on sort of media and stuff. But as I say, I do work for the United Journal. If you don't follow them already, certainly give them a follow. They are always very, very selective with their news. They know who to trust. I'm not an expert on this sort of thing. I know a few names, but as I said, if you see a piece of news come out, always look who it's by. Look in the comments. Ask people what are these people reliable before you actually say too many things, because there's a lot of BS out there. So just be careful. Big up, mate. Big up. Realist TV, thanks a lot for coming along, mate. Big up Zidane. Yep, Southampton at home. Sancho was very, very good in that game. Certainly. You check Austria. I think our team is built for the counter-attack. Yeah, our team, sort of, that's what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer used, really, wasn't it? Sort of a lot of counter-attacking football. I think that's Martial is a big sort of cog in that machine, really. Martial in the centre, dropping slightly deep, letting Rashford run in behind. I think he suited that style. So I think with Ronaldo, obviously, Ronaldo's still got a bit of pace in him, but not so much for the counter-attack anymore. So I think Martial not playing, I think that hurt Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in terms of the way he wanted to play, in all honesty. But I do think it was right that he went eventually. Manchester United lack leaders, we certainly do. Needs to be addressed. Ten Hag brought in older players like Blind and Tadic. Could he do that with Man United, i.e. Eriksen? Certainly, certainly. I've always said this. I am not bothered about the age of a player coming in. I really aren't. I'm really not too bothered. The most important thing in football, are you good enough? That's the most important thing. I don't care whether you're 20, whether you're 30. We saw with Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Look at the impact he had when he came in. Look at the impact he had. I mean, in my opinion, there is no doubt. I think Paul Pogba played some of his best football and looked more settled in Manchester when Zlatan was here, because Paul Pogba wasn't this sort of main man. And I think Zlatan maybe took a little bit of pressure off him, and Zlatan took on that sort of leader role. I think he was a real leader for Manchester United. I think Eriksen is not so much a massive leader like that. I think he's more of an example setter. This leading by example, doing the right thing on and off the pitch. So yeah, I certainly agree. I think that could happen. I think Ruben Neves would be another good signing in that sort of aspect. I think he did captain his team when I think he might have been Porto, if somebody can just confirm that. But I do think he played a leadership role in the past, and he is a good leader in that Wolves team as well. So I think Neves would be a good signing. But I know the price is quite high, around 70 million. By the looks of it. Ralph couldn't help. Yep. As Man United fans, support this guy. Thanks a lot, mate. Thanks a lot for the support. And everybody, if there's 29 people watching, please give the video a like. I really, really appreciate all the support. I will never forget people giving support. I get quite a lot of messages on Twitter and things. I really appreciate everybody. So thanks so much for coming along and showing your support. All I want to do is talk football. That's what I love to do. That's all I want to do. I don't aim to make any. I'm not bothered about making any money, or I don't care how many followers and subscribers I've got. I just want to talk football. And of course, if we can grow the channel, that would be absolutely brilliant. I just want to talk football and bring it to as many people as possible. So please get involved. That's all I want you to do, guys. Get involved, like the video, subscribe if you can. Everybody's support, and I really, really appreciate it. Wasting time. I don't think we're wasting time. I understand where you're coming from. I think we're just trying to get the best deal. I'm not backing the board or the Glazers in this. I understand that we need to try and improve our sort of the way we do things, and we need to build that reputation back up. I understand that, but I do get your sort of annoyance with how slow things are moving. But let's see whether we can hopefully move quicker. Yeah, Fabrizio, I understand that. I think it's just the way that Fabrizio is acting, I think mostly quite recently. I think a lot of people are getting annoyed with it. But as I said, I'm not going at any journalists or anything like that. They can do what they want. I'm just saying to everybody, anyone can go out and be a journalist. There's some sort of ITKs. There's people on Twitter that claim to know that you sort of know what they're on about in terms of news, and fair play to them. Let them do their thing. But just always read around the topic, So if a piece of news comes out, read around it a little bit before seeing what's really gonna see what's actually true or false. So Mo, with letting players go, I've accepted that not many clubs want our players, mainly due to wages. Yes, you're right. We'll probably have to let some contracts run out. Yes, and that's what we've seen, haven't we? Lingard free, Pogba free, Matic. I think Matic was free as well. Mata's obviously left on a free. So all these players on ridiculous wages, probably same with Phil Jones. Eric Bailly, it might happen to with his injury record. Martial, it could happen to as well. We'll see what happens with Martial, but you're totally right. De Gea will probably go on a free as well. I think it will happen, Mohammed, so just keep an eye out. I think it will happen. So I'm just going to try and get a few more things across. Talk about Anthony. Yeah, so Anthony's obviously a very, very technical player, good one-on-one, good first touch. He's got Brazilian flair about him. Obviously plays on the right-hand side. He's left-footed, very, very useful sort of in the Ten Hag system. He can bring, if the right back can overlap, he can bring the right back into play, moving inside, leaving space for the right back. He's got a very, very good cross on him. Obviously, Ronaldo will probably benefit from that if he comes. You see the way that Sebastian Haller has benefited, the amount of headed goals he's scored. Anthony will be, I think he'd be a decent signing, but I only want Anthony in if that's what Ten Hag, if that's Ten Hag's one of Ten Hag's top targets. I've always said with Anthony, I haven't been fully sold on him. Like, oh, we should definitely sign this player when I've watched him. But Ten Hag is in charge, and Ten Hag will decide. Good point here. I forgot a couple of names. So Ornstein, Luckhurst, Whitwell. Yep, they're good sources as well. Ziad, I'm okay. I hope you're doing well. Thanks a lot for coming along, as I've always said. Thanks to everybody. Man United, I'm going to respond to that question at the end of the window, if you allow me. I can't respond to that question until I see what happens. And yes, Neves did it. I thought so. I did think so, yeah. So Neves has got the leadership qualities. And yeah, Julian, I think, if I pronounce your name right. So yes, I do get that. I just think, as I said, I'm not an expert in journalism and media, but I do think a lot of people are getting a bit frustrated with the way that he sort of is reporting on other people's news. But again, that doesn't bother me. You know, I know his here we goes are quite exciting until I saw the one about Vitinha going to PSG yesterday, which I thought was, we were apparently in for a player, and now sort of all of a sudden PSG had agreed personal terms, agreed a fee, and he went. So, but yeah, Fabrizio, I've got nothing against you. I'm sure he's not watching anyway. But if he is, very, very low chance he's watching. I've got nothing against Fabrizio. I've got nothing against any journalist, but just be careful about who you believe. That's all I'm saying. Read around the topic. Ruben Neves, yeah, very, very, very good player. Obviously got questions about the system he's played in. Obviously, he's had a lot of protection behind him. Wolves' system, particularly under Nuno Espirito Santo, was quite pragmatic. He does lack a bit of pace, which I understand. But as I said, I'm more bothered about the general quality, the intelligence of a player. He's a physical player. He can win duels. He can distribute the play. He can be a good part of build-up for us and distribute the ball to De Jong. He can sit behind De Jong if De Jong makes his sort of runs forward, progressive runs. He can sit and he's positionally aware. He can dictate from deep. He can switch the play. He's got a great shot on him. He's got a good delivery. I think he's got a lot of good attributes, Ruben Neves. Renato Sanchez to PSG, that's very interesting, Jose, because obviously PSG, with the new sporting director there, they seem to be making moves. But I will always say with PSG, yes, they get great players in, but when are they actually going to get that? They need a bit of nastiness, a bit of grit about them, PSG. I've always thought they've got all these stars, but when are they actually going to get this sort of nastiness, this grit about them? We know how to win type of players. And I think they tried to do that with Ramos. But obviously, Real Madrid had other ideas, didn't they, in the Champions League? Thanks a lot, everybody who's liked so far. As I said, all I want to do is talk football. But if you could like and subscribe, that would be absolutely brilliant for the growth of the channel. We're going to get some regular guests on the show soon. So I really, really appreciate everybody who's coming along. Rafinha, not for me, Rafinha. I've watched him and Bruno. I think they played together, didn't they, for Sporting? I don't think they would work too well together. I think Rafinha is a decent player, but not for me. I would prefer Anthony. But again, even with Anthony, I'm not fully sold yet. In terms of the winger market, I've said many, many times in terms of the winger market, the striker market, Nkunku. Sorry, my mind just went blank then. Nkunku. I know he's been quoted to be worth 100 million. He might even sign a new contract, but if he was available, I would be going for Christopher Nkunku. I think he is. I think he's really, really good. A really, really good player. And people say it's Bundesliga. It's not just about the league he's playing. He's actually a top player. Scores headers, not just in behind. He can also link play, be part of the build-up play as well. I think he's a top player. Yes, I do. Not so much Arsenal, but more Spurs with Conte. Antonio Conte was a manager I actually wanted when Oli was possibly getting sacked. I think he's a top manager. I understand what people don't like about Conte in terms of the short term. But for me, I care about winning. That's my main concern, winning. And I understand that Manchester United are in a situation right now where people don't just want to win a trophy and then not win anything for 3 or 4 years. We have to change another manager. I understand that. But I think Conte with Spurs, I think there will be a problem. New manager, PSG. If anyone can tell me, I don't know whether I've had an absolute brain freeze, but who is going to be the new PSG manager? I think Poch has been reported to be leaving. Who is going to be the new PSG manager? Because I've had a bit of a brain freeze. That much football going on today. Romano's just tweeted that Berg Varney's in talks. Oh, interesting. Keep an eye on this because Ajax could let Anthony go. Yeah, certainly could. Good thoughts there. They certainly do. Julian, in terms of director of football, we might end up buying Sir Alex's recommendations. Look, Sir Alex, to be honest with you, I love Sir Alex and what he did for the club, but I think Sir Alex needs to go and enjoy some retirement now. You know, as much as I love the bloke, I think football's a little bit different to when he was managing, you know. And there's a lot of talk whether would Sir Alex still be would Sir Alex still win nowadays? I think he'd have a chance, but I think football has changed slightly in terms of systems and tactics. I think obviously there are managers like Jose Mourinho who still don't get involved with this juego de posición type football, which is the football that Ten Hag likes to play in terms of fluidity, you know, changing, not just having a set formation that you use throughout the game. Players need to be in certain positions and perform certain roles. I think there are managers that can still be sort of successful without these tactical. I know Jose Mourinho is regarded as a great tactical manager, but in terms of this modern juego de posición football, there are managers that can still get success without that. So Sir Alex, go and enjoy your retirement. He doesn't deserve to be put in this sort of state with the with this, you know, the state with what we're in at the moment. Sir Alex, I'd like to see him go and sort of get some retirement if he can, especially with what he suffered with, you know, his health situation as well. He's incredible to still be here. So big up to Sir Alex, of course. Big up Steve. Thanks a lot for coming along, mates. Daniel, thanks a lot, mates. As I said, I will always be respectful. I always try to be. There's been a few times on Twitter before where I haven't been respectful towards people, and I do regret it. We all sometimes get caught up in things, but I will always try and be fully respectful. And I've really enjoyed it, and I'm glad you have as well. So thanks a lot. Conte signing, yeah, I think you are certainly right there, Julian. And I think that is something that gets sort of, Conte gets tarnished with that brush, doesn't he? He gets tarnished with the brush of short-term manager. What I would say is that Conte does tend to spend around 2 seasons at a football club and then sort of tends to move on for one way or another. So that's what more I was referring to. But you are certainly right. Bissouma, they're looking at Jed Spence, obviously Fraser Forster, backup keeper. But obviously with Perisic, I think he'd be a great sign as well, obviously more for the short term. Do you think we need to buy a replacement for Greenwood? I'm not going to talk too much about the investigation. I don't feel too comfortable to talk about sort of the footballing side of things because of there's been looks like a very poor lady in this instance has been treated very badly. So I don't think it's right to talk too much about this and bring it into a football sort of context. But I do think that we will need a striker or a winger this summer. And I'm not prepared for Greenwood to ever come back, really. Do I follow or watch any United YouTuber? Yeah, I follow quite a few YouTube channels. I don't tend to watch that much YouTube in my free time just because I'm very busy with my own sort of stuff. But I do keep an eye out on obviously the main big channels around. What I would say about sort of YouTube channels and fan channels, I will never sort of hate on anyone, if that makes sense. But I'm never going to hate on any channel. I think everyone's got the rights and has the freedom to make their own content. If you like their content, watch it. If you don't. There's no need to go abusing or shaming anybody or talking about anybody. To be honest with you, everyone's got their own content. You can have your opinion either way. As there's people watching my show, I appreciate that. If you don't like my show, you don't have to watch. I'm not forcing you to, you know. So I do watch quite a few YouTube. I sort of subscribe to quite a lot of YouTube channels, but as I said, I probably watch 1 or 2 shows a week, really, just because I'm so busy. I do watch a bit of the United Stand just because that's a lot of it where important news gets covered. I do like it when a lot of different fans get involved. But yeah, as I said, I don't really have the time to watch too many shows, but I do try and support people where I can, you know, dropping into shows and giving good comments and support to people. Do you see Richard Arnold walking for speaking out? Edward would never did. No, I don't see that happening. I'm afraid. I still don't know whether this was this Richard Arnold, being totally honest, or was this all set up? I'm not quite sure. So let's see. In terms of Richard Arnold, I'm not quite sure what the motive was today. As I said, we've got to be a bit careful what we talk about in terms of Richard Arnold. What was the motive today? Was he sort of pre-planned with a list of things to say, or was this actually genuine? We don't know. You're right, Steve, they do. And I think that is going to be a major problem. Whoever comes in, whichever manager comes in, whichever players we've got on the pitch, whichever director of football we've got, we've always, at this moment in time, we've always got the same owners. João Felix, top player. I watched him at Old Trafford at home to Atletico Madrid when we lost 1-0, unfortunately, under Ranić. His movement was just exceptional. João Felix, top player, can play in so many different positions, can play in a wide area, can play as a false nine, can play in attacking midfield. He is a top player, I do agree. Do you think United are suffering in terms of recruitment in this window, having a new structural manager? Yes, I do. I think it will be a little bit slower. I'm not going to give any excuses for the Glazers or the board, but I do understand that a new manager has come in. It may just take a little bit of time, and that's why I've said I'm going to reserve my judgment. I'm going to be rather pessimistic until I see something change, if that makes sense, Grove. So I'm not going to praise anything until I actually see change. So you might see me saying, you might see me sounding a little bit negative and pessimistic, but I think we've got to be real with the way that Manchester United are at the moment. We can't be giving out any, positive thoughts until we actually see change, to be honest with you. And don't worry, Gigi, you can always watch it back, but I appreciate you coming along. As always, I think you were here yesterday as well, so I appreciate that. You should do a collab with Ricky, Rick the Red. I do respect him a lot for his, some of the opinions I know, some of them are unpopular. But as I said, this is what football is all about. There are certain fan channels that maybe I don't like watching, but it doesn't mean I need to go out and abuse them, say things about them. I think that is something that I think that's something we get wrong generally as humans, going at other people a lot. And I will be honest, I've learned from this myself. I have learned from this myself. As I said, we've all said things in the past that we really regret and we wish we hadn't said. But it's all about trying to be respectful. And that's what I try and do on this channel, just giving people the chance. I'm trying to interact with every comment as I can, that I can do, really, just to get everybody involved. And as I said, it's all about the people, getting everybody involved. It would be really telling if Arnold was fired. Yes, it would, Brandon. And I'd be livid, actually, to be honest with you, because I think Ranić was, to an extent, fired because of what he said. But I think Ranić was right. Look, Ranić is somebody I really, really respect. And I think a lot of people I think Ranić's taken a bit too much stick from some people, And I think from a lot of people that supported Ollie so much, I think they gave Ranić a lot of stick. And I think this was going to happen to any manager who took over after Ollie. The people who thought Ollie wasn't good enough were always going to defend the new manager more. That's me included. And the people who really loved Ollie were always going to give Ranić more stick because it wasn't Ollie anymore, if that makes sense. So I think as fans, there's a lot of bias across the fan base, but I just hope that the Glazers, if Arnold and Murto are trying to do the right thing, which I don't know, I just hope they support them. That's all I'm saying. Yes, he would. I think any player under Pep Guardiola would be a joy to watch. I think he can work with a lot of different types of players. If you could sign 3 players, I would sign Frenkie de Jong, I would sign Neves, I would sign Timber if I could sign 3 players. But as I said before, we need 6, really, in my opinion. Nkunku's best position overall, I think he's best worked so far, in my opinion, next to a more of a target man striker in a front 2, in my opinion, Gro. I think if you look at the way he's played, I think he's played with Andre Silva, hasn't he, in a front 2. I think he works best on Nkunku when he's got that more that tall up target man next to him. But I think he is also good enough. He's obviously playing, I think, in a 3-5-2 for Leipzig at the moment. I think he is good enough, though, to play a lone striker role. I really do. And I think he's also good enough to play a winger role. I think he's one of those players in Nkunku, maybe more of a forward role than a winger role, sorry. But I think he's one of those players in Nkunku who can be, we talked earlier about who can be coached. Are there certain players that are sort of uncoachable? I think Nkunku is one of those players that is that. I think he's got that sort of variety of attributes that he could be coached to play many, many different roles. So for me, I think so far he's been best in a front 2 next to a target man. In sort of a 3-5-2, that's where he's excelled best for Leipzig. But that doesn't mean he can't play in other roles. I think he could play as a number 9 in Ten Hag's system. I think he would work. And Joe say, so you Statman 11, the fans' opinions I rate the highest, especially because you guys are not reactionary, have a proactive view for the club. Thanks a lot, Jose. I really, really appreciate that. As I said in the past, we all have reactionary times. I've done it in the past. I will do it right now in terms of, if we don't see any changes from the Glazers this summer, so if we don't see enough spending, we're all going to be reactionary and react to that. Of course, I think it's just about reacting to the right things and giving the right energy to the right things. So if Ten Hag doesn't get the targets he wants and we have a poor start to the season, it's being giving your negative energy towards the board, towards the Glazers, rather than the manager. I think that's important. So I do get your point. I try not to be too reactionary, and I think I've improved in that sense sort of in the last few months, been maturing in terms of getting into the content creation field a little bit more, building the foundations of following more. So that's that. Any other questions, guys? Get them in. We'll go for a few more minutes, but we have been on for over an hour now, and I am starting to feel a little bit tired. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. I didn't expect any sort of news to come out today, but anything else, get it in the comments. As I said, I always really appreciate the support from everyone. I really don't want to change my attitude towards sort of content, no matter if I've got one person watching or liking analysis or watching videos, or whether I've got 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000. I will always try and give people that chance, give people a voice to speak and give their thoughts. And yeah, as I said, I'm going to try not to change. And they say that people change when you get more following and stuff. I'm not bothered. I'm really not. I just want to give people a chance to voice their opinions. And as I said, I always want to talk about football. That's all I'm interested in at the end of the day. Brandon, will you be streaming often? I'm going to try, Brandon. I'm really going to try. As I said, it all depends. If you've watched a few of my earlier videos, it all depends on what news comes out. Like, for example, an hour ago, 2 hours ago, I wasn't planning to have a live stream tonight, but because of the news I have, I'm off for university now for the summer. So I have got more free time. So if a big news event drops, I will be going live. So I'm going to try and stream many times a week. And do you guys prefer this live stream rather than pre-recorded? Let me know. I think it is better for getting interaction, but do let me know if you prefer sort of a live stream rather than a pre-recorded, or maybe a mix of both. I'm going to try and mix up the content as well. So not just news, maybe Q&As, analysis. If I've done some analysis on Twitter, do go and follow my Twitter, by the way, if you haven't already, Threadman Chazza. I do analysis on Twitter, and I will come on here and explain through some of the analysis as well. I'm not an expert in football. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm just really interested and look into the deeper details. Signs of players, yes, please, Steve. Get in the Glazers' ear, please, and let's get some signings over the line. Who do you think will win the World Cup? Interesting one. I think Netherlands and the Van Gaal have got a chance. I think they'll go far. I think England, I don't think Southgate's personally the right man. I don't think he will do any good, unfortunately, from an English person. I'm not too keen on Southgate. I know he's reached a semi-final and a final, but I just don't know if he's got the tactical flexibility personally. I think Spain under Enrique will be a threat. South American teams, I think Brazil are obviously very strong as well. If I was to go for one winner, I'm going to go for. It's tough. I'm going to go for. I'll go for Spain. I know that might not be too popular with a lot of people, but I'll go for Spain. I think Enrique is a top coach. I really do. I think he's a top coach. So yeah, I'm going to go for Spain. I know it might be maybe not one of the favourites. I haven't looked at the odds, but I'm going to go for Spain there. Gvardiol, top player Gvardiol. I really like Gvardiol. I've watched him many times. Left of a back three, but I think he'd be good enough to play in a back four. Bastoni as well, top player. I think Bastoni and Gvardiol are the best two options out there, to be honest with you. I think Schlotterbeck was available, wasn't he? But he's gone to Dortmund. So yeah, Gvardiol is one of the best options. I really like him. Thanks for that, Brandon. Appreciate that. Saeed TV, yeah, I do go on Saeed TV most weeks on a Friday. If people know, obviously Saeed gets a lot of stick from a lot of people. A lot of our fan base, a lot of people are not too keen on Saeed at times. But I would just say to you, Saeed has always given me the chance to voice my thoughts, and I have a lot of respect for Saeed in terms of the chances he's given me. I don't see eye to eye with Saeed on everything. I think that's just natural in football. I think there'll be, when you go on other people's channels, you're not going to agree with everything that the leader of the channel says, or the comments they've made in the past. You might think, well, I'm not quite sure with that opinion. I don't quite agree with that. But I think with Saeed, he's given me a real chance to go and voice my thoughts about Man United, and that's what I appreciate. So I think that's just important to remember. He's given me a great chance, and there's a lot of people that do enjoy his content. So whatever you think of Saeed, I think people just need to. He gets a lot of stick and abuse, and I think some of it's really unfair, to be honest with you. So yeah, I've got a lot of time for Saeed because he's given a lot of time for me. He's always very respectful the way he approaches me and everything. So yeah, that's what I'd say. It's sort of in this football content creation field. There's a lot of nice people out there. There's some not so nice people out there. I think I've learned that along the way. But there are some really nice people out there. Even if they don't appear to be nice, maybe you don't like the way they do their content. You've actually got to realize that the person on the screen is not always the same person inside. You don't know what that person's going through. So just maybe treat people with a bit more respect. I think that's the best way to go about things. And I think we can all learn from that personally. Núñez, I think he will do well because of the way that Liverpool play. He's good presser. He's very deadly in front of goal. I think that Núñez will do very well, unfortunately, because I think most Liverpool signings do very well under Klopp. Right, I think we're going to have to wrap it up there. Everybody, on this lovely Saturday evening, thanks a lot for coming along. As I said, I will never stop appreciating all the support. This is my second live stream. I think we've done really well. There's a lot of different people in the comments. I really appreciate you guys for coming along. You guys make the show. There's been loads and loads of comments tonight. And I'll say this again, I wholeheartedly appreciate it. Thank you very much. And just Joe say, yeah, I understand, and we're never going to agree on all football opinions. And this is what football is all about. It's about opinion, and as long as people keep that respectful, that's fine. So really appreciate everyone coming on. As I said, we're going to do Q&As. We're going to do news shows, transfer news. If Man United sign a player, I'll be doing some analysis on Twitter. What I'll do is I'll probably post that analysis on Twitter, and then I can come on here, maybe share my screen, go through the analysis, talk through it. I think that would be a really good thing to do, because sometimes the way that people write or do content on Twitter, other people maybe can't understand, or they're not quite sure exactly what things mean. And I'm not saying that I know more than the average fan. I'm just saying sometimes I might write in a way that people sort of might not quite understand, or what are you going on about there? And we can have a Q&A about it, and we can go into more depth on here. But I just want to talk about football. That's all I want to do. Thanks everyone for coming along. Grow, Steve, thanks a lot. Jose, we've had Brandon, we've had Gigi, Julian, we've had Daniel, Oris Talks Football, Mohammed. We've had so many people, so many people. Aditya, Realist TV, everybody who's come along. I couldn't read everybody out because there's so many people that have come along today. Thank you so much for coming along. As always, please smash a like if you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you're new, and I'll be back soon. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy the rest of our weekend. I hope you enjoy your weekends, everybody, and I will see you later. Cheers.